So this supposedly revelatory tale of two people who accused Michael Jackson of molestation charges, James Safechuck and Wade Robson, turned out to be a total farce with contradictory stories and no incriminating evidence. When I first looked up Leaving Neverland on Google 2 weeks before it came out, it had an 11% approval rating, which shot up to 19% a few days before release. After it was shown, I searched up again and curiously, my downvote rating had disappeared. The approval rating this time was 49%, so I made sure to downvote the production once again. On IMDb, a similar thing happened when the rating was a 5.1 out of 10 and suddenly became a 6.4 out of 10. This is a very strange and dramatic shift in upvotes and higher ratings, but maybe I would have given them the benefit of the doubt here when all of Jackson's crazed fans, including myself, had downvoted it without even seeing the film, but we knew beforehand by Robson's and Safechuck's laughable assertions and them being devoid of any emotion that it was just a disgusting manipulation for money. If you don't believe me, just search up the Rageaholics Michael Jackson Rebuttal Part 2, where he debunks all of Safechuck and Robson's claims. So, to recount the story, let's go back to the beginning. In 1993, Jackson was first accused of molestation during his Dangerous Tour setlist by Jordan Chandler and his father Evan Chandler. It is thought that Chandler was coaxed by his father in order to extort Jackson. You see, his dad was a dentist and with Jackson's help became a screenwriter for Robin Hood Men in Tights in the same year, but because he was not able to find any other work in his career, a theme we will later see with Wade Robson also, this was the impetus for accusing Jackson of abusing his son so he could get money for it. In the trial, Michael Jackson's lawyers paid off Jordan Chandler $25 million because Jackson himself did not want to go through a drawn-out accusatory process in the courts, and found the allegations so ridiculous that he just wanted to get on with his Dangerous Tour. If he could not, he felt it would directly damage his career. Jackson later reflected that the move at the time made himself look guilty and so regretted doing it. When it came time for his 2005 trial, no such settlement was made, but he was acquitted of all charges brought against him once again on the grounds of insufficient evidence to bring about a prosecution. Jordan Chandler's father, Evan Chandler, committed suicide after Jackson died in 2009, presumably because he felt guilty of accusing an innocent man of wrongdoing. This was further compounded with a recorded telephone message in 1993 where he said,
"This man is going to be humiliated beyond belief. He will not believe it. He will not believe what's going to happen to him. Beyond his worst nightmares. Sell one more record. If I go through with this, I win big time. I will get everything I want. They will be destroyed forever."
Hinting at it being monetarily motivated. He forced Chandler to lie about Jackson abusing him. Then when the trial came to process, Jordan fled the country not being able to defend the allegations. I bet you can guess what happened when they wanted him to testify against Jackson in the 2005 case, and the recent case that has come up again recently. Yep, he fled the country again to avoid doing so. This to me doesn't look like the actions of someone who believes that Jackson is guilty, but rather someone who is afraid of being outed as a fraud. In Martin Bashir's 2003 documentary, Living with Michael Jackson, Jackson stated,
"Why can't you share your bed? The most loving thing to do is to share your bed with someone. You know?
You really think that?
Yeah."
This formed the basis for the 2005 molestation trial of Gavin Arvizo, but Jackson also said later on,
The family bond has been broken. It's an outcry for attention why kids are going to school with guns. They want love, they want to be touched, they want to be held.
Jackson had set up Neverland in 1988 as an attempt to experience the childhood he had been robbed of by his disciplinarian father and help underprivileged and disadvantaged kids. Arvizo was one such case, as doctors told him he had a terminal form of cancer that would end his life. Arvizo is seen in the documentary reveling in the fact that he no longer has cancer, talking about his mutual friendship with Michael Jackson and being comforted by him. He would later claim that after the documentary was filmed was when the sexual abuse by Jackson had started, once again instigated by the parents who used Arvizo for their own selfish personal gain. Gavin admitted that he had told his school administrator that Jackson had not molested him, and the trial heard that Gavin's father had persistently begged celebrities for money after Gavin had been diagnosed with cancer. Although the fact could not be proven, it looked like a similar situation to Chandler's case, where the false charges against Jackson were motivated by money rather than as a matter of fact or seeking any form of justice. The FBI had ransacked Jackson's Neverland Ranch property from the years of 1993 to 2005, and after over 10 years of thorough investigation, including a full-body strip search of Jackson himself, turned up no evidence for the prosecution. Macaulay Culkin, who befriended Jackson as a child, testified in Jackson's defense on the witness stand, along with Wade Robson, who was adamant that nothing untoward or perverted had happened to him. In response to Gavin Arvizo's allegations, Robson said, "I never had that experience, and I hope no one else will have to either." James Safechuck was meant to appear at the trial as an accuser but didn't show up. Since then, many more accounts of people who befriended Jackson in their childhoods, defending him from abuse allegations rather than accusing him, have sprung up, further conflicting with Wade and Safechuck's narrative of Michael as a serial abuser. The pieces of evidence that led to Jackson's acquittal came from Thomas Mesereau, whose cross-examination on the witness stand helped the case for Jackson's innocence. Mesereau noted that the supposed victims always had a history of perjury and fraudulent claims. Now on to the history with Wade and Safechuck. Wade alleges that Jackson abused him, starting with his appearance in the 1988 Pepsi commercial. He said that the sexual molestations started in 1989 and continued until he left Neverland in 1992, which begs the question why he kept silent for all of those years. In 1991, he alleges that he and Brett Barnes were abused by Michael. Brett Barnes denies this and says that he wasn't even there when Wade said the abuse happened. Wade Robson, who could be thought of as one of Jackson's proteges, used to be a choreographer for NSYNC and was relatively popular in the early 2000s as a music director. When he was friends with Michael in childhood, Michael had promised him that he would be successful, and he said that he was thankful for Michael's generosity. However, due to his declining popularity and stress associated with trying to become a film producer, which never worked out for Wade no matter how hard he tried, he had a mental breakdown. Furthermore, when Robson was shafted from the Cirque du Soleil Michael Jackson show in 2011, he had another mental breakdown. He wasn't anywhere near as successful as he thought he would have been by now as a choreographer, and possibly because of that breakdown, had somehow convinced himself that Michael had molested him as a child, but given his complete lack of emotion in interviews, it's more likely the breakdown didn't convince him, but just made him say fuck it, and sue the Jackson estate for $1.9 billion as an easy bid to make money. In the documentary, Robson claims that Neverland was a lurid place where Jackson would lure his victims into his bedroom. In his own account, he would say that Jackson molested him at the time, but he didn't press charges until after Jackson had died because he didn't know what molestation was. A hard fact to believe when Robson defended Jackson at his 2005 trial. If he had actually lied under oath, he would have been committed for perjury. In a court of law, you cannot lie to protect someone, and you cannot lie to accuse someone either. The interviewer would have also described what molestation actually is to the defendant and accuser. In Robson's second claim, he says that Neverland had security cameras and a security alarm on Jackson's door supposedly notified him of when people were approaching his bedroom so as not to be caught. In a different account, Jackson's treacherous maid, who is in cahoots with Robson, said she caught Jackson numerous times out in the open, including walking in on Jackson bathing with another kid. Both of these accounts conflict with each other. The pair's version of events often don't line up and contradict each other. The accounts they give are often paltry, ludicrously improbable, and not believable. For instance, when Safechuck says about the ring given to him by Michael, he says he cannot bear to look at it, yet has kept it throughout all of these years. The ring has no inscription, no note, and could have been gotten from anywhere. He then equates letters of love and Jackson's association with playing with children and letting them sleep in his bed as fodder for his claims, even though the clip in Living with Michael Jackson disproves any nefarious intentions Wade tries to imply by this phrasing. Michael had guest units at his mansion, and would let children sleep in his bed if they asked him while he slept on the floor. Jackson's playful nature with children is due to being robbed of his childhood by his father, and so he didn't want any other child to feel the same way he did, that they didn't have a proper childhood. This is where the commitment to letting kids stay at his Neverland ranch comes from. As for the letters of love.
Called love letters? Anybody that knows me knows that I say that to everybody. With love, I love you, little one, love Michael, Applehead. That's my fucking nickname. You try to flip that whole shit around and make it about you. Talk to Ty Jackson. He has the receipts. I said to everyone, you was my protege and you let me down.
As for the director, Dan Reed's stipulation that his film would cause a flood of people molested by Jackson to come forward karmically blew up in his face when they included mention of Macaulay Culkin and Brett Barnes, childhood friends of Michael who emphatically denied the association with allegations of paedophilia. And Barnes even went as far as to sue Dan Reed and HBO for defamation. So far, the only ones that assert that Michael was guilty, without evidence mind you, are Robson, Safechuck and Dan Reed and his media associates, who coincidentally, believe it or not, are just out for a payday. I believe also it might have something to do with the vilification of the media over the years, with them desperately trying to save face by saying, "Hey guys, I know we protected Harvey Weinstein, but if we oust Jackson, the most famous man and philanthropist of all time, we can redeem ourselves." Although I cannot prove this, I have a sneaking suspicion this is why media journalists are so receptive to the allegations against Jackson and praise the film, whilst the general public disregard it and are disgusted by it. Again, proving that they're only about money over principle. Goddamn, where's Tom Mesereau when you need him? To make matters worse for Mr. Reed, another person who knew Jackson as a child, actor Corey Feldman, issued a statement against the film. And Corey Feldman is an actual victim of child sexual abuse. As a result of this documentary, people were really thinking about pulling Michael Jackson's music from radio stations, and even an episode of The Simpsons was pulled despite no evidence against Jackson being presented. At the end of all this, disregarding whether or not Jackson actually did molest kids, and I don't think he ever did, you have to separate the art from the artist. Are you going to ban John Lennon's music because he beat his wife? Are you going to ban any other artist in history who has done anything bad from playing their music? No. It seems the conversation only centres on Michael Jackson and a hit piece vendetta devised by numerous lamestream media sources just to strip him of his money, dignity, and immortalised place in music history. Hell, if you banned anyone who's ever done anything bad, or had temptation abound them to lose their way, so to speak, nobody would ever be on radio. But I understand molestation is a more extreme crime than any mistakes that most people would have made in their life. So banning of course makes sense in that context, but if people like John Lennon aren't banned, I don't see why Michael Jackson should be. That is a double standard.
But is that right, Michael?
It's very right. It's very loving. That's what the world needs now. More love, more
The world needs
heart.
the world needs a man who's 44 sleeping in a bed with children.
No, you're making it all wrong.
Well, tell me, help me.
Because what's wrong with sharing a love? You don't sleep with your kids or some other kid who needs love, who didn't have a good childhood?
No, I don't. I would never dream of sleeping.
I would.
I would never dream.
Because you've never been where I've been, mentally.
So I'd recommend watching the Michael Jackson Innocence Project, where they go through the court transcripts and lies by Safechuck and Wade to debunk them. It explains much better than I ever could what a farce this whole fiasco really is. I'd also recommend Tabloid Junk's video on the Michael Jackson trial, the Michael Jackson Allegations channel, and of course the Rageaholics video too. There are a lot of good debunking videos out there on YouTube.